Hello, my friends. Marie Wallace here, and I have a beautiful guest today, my friend and very awesome coach, Michelle Weens. So thanks for coming today.
I am so glad to be here, Marie. This is going to be so much fun.
I know. Uh, she is just a high level performance coach. And so she's not just any coach. And she's here today to show us how to get active. But I thought it would also be fun to talk about her journey because we have a lot of entrepreneurs in our group too. And your journey's been a very eclectic one that shows how you can think you're going one direction, right? And you go, wow, here's where I am now. Without further ado, I'm going to tell you there's three things that led Michelle to this position. She was an aerobics instructor at a local gym. So she started out as an aerobics instructor. Did you think you were going to do that all your life?
No, I did
Okay.
not. I did not. I was doing it because I was looking for ways to get active and have some fun with it. And, I've always had this mantra. It's like, if you enjoy something, you got to find a way to make money out of it too.
And bring friends along,
Yeah.
right? So she's a local instructor at a gym, and she volunteered at a weight room as a weight room trainer at the small YMCA, which our family actually knows Michelle and have trained with her. Third, she was training herself for a new sport of triathlon. So I didn't realize it was that new of a sport, and so I thought that was cool. And they all came together in a new career. So I'm going to give you a little bit more background so she can tell you a little bit more about that journey. She has a degree in exercise physiology, a master's degree since 1998. So she's been doing this a very long time. And she was first triathlete coach in Boise. So yay! I think that's awesome. We actually did weight training. And then she launched her first business called Performance High in 2002. And that's um, the business she's still running today. And she's coached high endurance athletes of all kinds. So, two professional mountain bikers, a 24-hour racer and downhill racer, a nationally ranked Xterra, is that
Thanks, Sarah.
Xterra
Mhm.
triathlon racer, a competitive junior road cyclist, dozens of endurance runners, marathons and Ironmans, and lots of first-time runners and triathletes, adults with
Mhm.
significant fear and anxiety of water, which is very good work as well. So she says she's a product of her experiences because she had an injury that brought her to this, and her race-ending injury brought her here. And so she trains people of all ages, athletes, shapes, sizes, and personalities to achieve their goals. And it really makes her day to be part of your day. So I think that's something that I thought was really special about you. So that's all. That's a nice, long, beautiful bio, and still moving, like still creating and going further. So thank you again for being here.
Yes.
With all that, I know you still have a fun fact for us. That kind of helps us get to know a different side of you. So, what's your little fun fact?
Yeah. So my fun fact is, and I don't know, I don't think many of my clients actually know this either. So if they're going to take a watch, it'll be kind of fun to see what they think about this. But so I went to college in LA, Los Angeles, and I was there. I started college in '86. And so that was the height of the heavy metal age of music. And
Oh,
I spent many, 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 many evenings, nights at heavy metal clubs.
wow.
Like watching all kinds of the up and coming bands. And I mean, LA was like the perfect place to do that, right? So I got the heavy metal scene in LA, and then I graduated in 1990 and I moved to Seattle, and I got the full on grunge scene in Seattle, which was just as awesome. So
And you're a
I was
musician
the heavy metal
yourself.
turned grunge gal.
That
So
just
that's
seems
my
so different than you.
yeah. And then I play classical music on piano, right? So I've got the whole range of and I grew
Especially,
up loving country. So I started in country music, went to went to heavy metal, went to grunge, played classical piano, and now I'm, kind of all over the place. So,
Say that
so
you
there's
love
my fun fact.
that is a great fun fact. You could just say you love music, right?
Yeah, I
Wow.
do.
I just can't even picture you at a heavy metal concert, honestly.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. We were like, the whole headbanging thing, the whole deal. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
that's
yeah.
awesome. I remember going to concerts with our daughters where the person in the back, they have one person who's just designated as the screamer. And I'm like, wow, that's their whole job, which could probably be a short career at some point, right?
Yeah.
But it was
Super
interesting.
fun.
The music was good. I didn't care for the screaming too much, but it was fun. It was like I love the energy of those
Yeah.
concerts. So, I wanted to ask,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, you got so many places we can go here. But tell us a little bit about how maybe went from an injury to becoming this high performance coach and moving in that direction. And if you want to see her pictures on, oh my goodness, we'll go get to that later. I'll tell you about that. Those are awesome pictures.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, I mean, it's this, and this is something that I've really taken forward, this concept that I've really taken forward, because I think, this injury was what really pushed me in this direction. And so I was training really hard. And this was back in it, the triathlon scene in the US didn't really get started until the 90s. And we did not know what we were doing. I mean, we were running like runners and cycling like cyclists and swimming like swimmers. So we were training ridiculous. We didn't know, how to fine tune and pull those three sports together into one. So we were training ridiculous hours for, really actually pretty short races at the time. And I, I overtrained. I mean, that's really what it was. It came down to overtraining and not being smart. And I got a injury that was bizarre enough to where we couldn't figure it out. I went to innumerable doctors trying to figure it out. And basically I couldn't kick in the pool, I couldn't bike, and I couldn't run. so there you go. That's pretty
Oh,
much all of triathlon, right? So
yeah, everything.
yeah. So I mean, it was years of trying to figure it out. And the thing that pushed me into a new direction was I wanted to stay in the sport somehow, because my identity was basically as a triathlete. And I couldn't see leaving the sport. So after I realized that doing the sport was not going to be possible, at least at the level I wanted to do it, I decided, well, okay, I love this. So there's my thing, right? I love it. So how can I make money at this, right? So I decided to go back to school. I decided to go back to school and figure out how to coach it. And my number one priority was, and still is I never want anybody to have to go through the kind of, terrible experience that is of having the thing you love taken away, right?
Oh, yeah.
So as a result, I think I've taken that awful experience and learned how to pair that with the science and come up with a training protocol that works pretty well, so that people can do the thing that they love to do and not get these horrific injuries and end up having it just snatched away from you. So not only did that particular injury shape my coaching style, but also sort of shaped my philosophy going forward, which is we really need to find balance in life. And I didn't have it, which is really why I think I got that injury. When
Oh,
things get too unbalanced, life will readjust you. And if you don't learn the lesson the first time, it'll keep trying to readjust you. So,
a rough
so it took a few years, but it eventually, I never really solved the injury. I had surgery that didn't really work. Like I said, I saw tons of doctors, but I really believe it didn't really go away until I let go of that whole part of my life in this concept of, oh, I'm going to be a triathlete. I'm going to train all these hours. You know, once I let go of that and moved on to, oh, now I'm a mom, and, you know, now I'm a business owner, and
Mhm.
now I train, but not, you know, that's just a part of my life.
Right.
That's when it kind of, you know, disappeared. So
That's an interesting thought. So how did, I mean, I know letting go is hard. I mean, how hard was that? Did it take you a long time or
years. Oh yeah, it was years. Yeah,
years?
yeah, it was years. I would say, let's see, if I think back, so I got injured mid 90s. Let's see, I moved here in 98. I mean, it was probably a 5 or 6 year process
Mm.
to move through that. So, and I got, let's see, I got pregnant in 2004. Yeah, so that's, oh gosh, I mean, that's at least 6 years.
And
So,
and so
if not long.
what was the deciding factor or what was that pivot moment? Do you know, can you remember what it was exactly that pivoted you and said, that's not my identity anymore? Or
Um, Not really. I don't know that I can pinpoint a specific moment in time, but I think, you know, if I sort of think that through, I basically it was a continued reinforcement of, you know, you're not going to get this over here. That's
Mhm.
that thing that you were so focused on is not going to happen. Every time you try to make it happen, it's not going to let you. And in the process of that, your life changes, right?
Oh, that's so
So you start to move in different directions. So I went back to school to take, you know, to get set up for a master's, because as an English undergrad, I didn't have any, you know, science stuff. I needed to go back and get all these science prereqs. So, you know, you sort of pivot and turn your focus in another direction. I decided to try to get pregnant, which was a process in and of itself. But you know, those kind of things just sort of shift you little by little until I think, you know, one day I kind of woke up and realized it's like, wow, okay, I'm not thinking about that anymore. I'm now thinking about this and this and this. And my identity has shifted away from that. So I think it wasn't a specific point. It was just a process of the years of going through that shift.
cool. Well,
I
being a
probably
busy
could have gone
mom,
faster, but you know how we fight things.
yeah, that would have been nice, right? Being a busy mom probably helps too, because then you can't really think about this over here
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
it's a busy time. So tell us a little bit about your new focus. Like what kind of training you're in now, that high performance part that might, you know, help some of the athletes out there that, you know, and then we'll go into the other things in a minute.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess so I have two pieces to my coaching style that I think that make me different. And you know, the beautiful thing is we have several coaches in the area. So, you know, my style is definitely not for everybody. And there are, you know, multiple coaches to choose from. So that's one of the best things that we can do is as an athlete is go out, and if you're going to work with somebody, interview them and, you know, find out if your style is going to match, because that's so critically important. But my style is and it's a product of those experiences. It's very conservative. You know, I'm not the type of coach that's going to like hand out, you know, really, really huge, hard, challenging, major workouts time after time after time. It's, you know, it's a lot of, we work hard, but we also rest hard too. And so I'm very, very conscious of the work to rest ratios and making sure that people have enough rest in their program. And I'm extremely conscious of that from you know, we have complicated lives.
Yeah.
And so our work is stressful and our families are stressful. And do we really need to be adding on a whole nother layer of physical stress on top of those things, right?
Good point.
Yeah. So most people who are not professionals, which is, you know, all the people I coach, we don't get enough sleep. We don't eat well enough. I mean, you know, we're just running from one thing to the next. So we don't need tons of hard workouts on top of that yet. We actually need a much more balanced type of program.
Yeah.
So conservative and balance are really the two things that I really focus on to try to and try to educate people on how you can get more with so much less, especially if we focus on these things of self-care, which are the things that athletes don't particularly like to focus on, which is rest, taking days off. I mean, my new athletes are always like, when I say 2 days off a week, they're like shocked. They're like, what? How
Because more is
how's that
better.
possible? Yes, you need to do that. You got it. Even the Ironman people, the long distance people. So that's really, I think, what I try to help people understand is that, this is a whole, you're a whole thing, and you can't just break your little self off here. That's the athlete part from the rest of your life. It's like all of those pieces have to integrate, and not only for your mental well-being, but also for your physical well-being too. So it's an education process, and it takes a lot of years actually to help people finally start to understand how those things all dovetail together. So yeah.
Those are good business principles too, right? It's the balance that allows us to keep moving, right? We don't want to get to a spot where we're shut down because we just didn't listen, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so we talked about today, just how to get people move, or we want to talk today about how to get people moving. We got spring coming, and hey, I know, I'm so thankful for the sun, and we're able to get out and about a little bit more. So you said that you thought you have some ways to get people out there and moving that may not be quite at your athlete's level, but just to get them moving. So what kind of advice do you have for us there?
Sure. Well, actually the first piece of advice is probably going to sound really odd, but it's again, this concept of conservatism, and that if, we get to this place where all of a sudden we make the decision, like, we're going to go do whatever. The sun is out, the weather is getting warmer. We're going to go start that running program. We're going to go start the gardening. And I mean, I know so many physical therapists, right? I mean, I have a huge network of physical therapists that I work with, and they love this time of year because this is the time of year when they start getting business like crazy, right? Because people go out and they give away too much. Exactly. It's kind of another, like the New Year's resolution problem that happens, right? So I guess, my first thing is just to go at it slowly. I mean, we always take such a short-term focus with this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, I got to get in shape for whatever, or I'm going to go do that running thing. So I'm going to train for a marathon, like in 6 weeks, it's like, just take your time. I mean, your garden is going to be fine if it takes 6 weeks instead of 1 weekend. Just, take it off in little bits and just ease your body into these things, because that's the primary way that we injure ourselves. It's way too much too soon. Yes, get moving, but do that with mindfulness and with some grace to the fact that your body is maybe not ready to handle 6 hours of something, and just a little bit. So I have this little mantra I say to folks, which is, beware the good days, the days that you feel really good, because those are often the days when you end up, your reasoning, your rational thought process goes out the window, and you decide you're just going to do a bunch more because you feel so good. And those are almost always the days that we get into trouble and injure ourselves. So just, little bit, take it a little bit at a time. It's just a process. We can just add a little bit more next week and a little bit more the week after. It doesn't all have to be done in one day.
I love that advice. That's great advice. To be conservative, we can still be consistent, and not forgetting our rest.
Well, and that's the biggest factor, Marie, is that consistency above anything else is what helps, what makes us fitter, stronger, faster. And again, it's something that I try to counsel my athletes on all the time. It's like, okay, we can go out and do this big thing, but then we have to figure out how we're going to recover from that and keep on going. Because if you injure yourself, or you don't, if you're feeling sick and you don't take that time to let your body heal,
Yeah.
and get recovered, then you're just going through this process of making it worse over this long period of time, and then the consistency of training gets lost. So the little thing you do every day is much more effective than the one big thing you do every 5 weeks. So yeah, finding ways to just do a little bit every day is significant, even though it doesn't feel like, I think that's what's hard for people. It doesn't feel like, it's like, oh, I took a walk to the store. Okay, so what good is that going to do? Well, if you take a walk, every day, it actually does huge things for your health and fitness, much more so than going out and running 6 miles one day a week. So
You should
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, so that will open some awareness for people.
Okay.
That little walk every day.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it is the little things. So, our bodies do best when they are moving, and that's a regularity thing. So, the more you can, well, and I even say to set alarms for this kind of stuff. I mean, if you set your alarm for a 20-minute timer, and every 20 minutes you get up and take a walk around your house, if you're working from home, or around the block, or around the office if you're at the office, that kind of stuff goes a long way towards helping our bodies stay loose, helping our muscles stay connected to our brains so that they work together better. It's the little, it really is, it's the little things. And I think we, in this culture especially, we just really look for these big, like, it's got to be this. I mean, I know there's a huge thing in the running community and in the triathlon community. If it's not a marathon or it's not an Ironman, it's not like a thing, right? It's like, it's not really a running race, or it's like, no. I mean, so, walking is just fine. I mean, it's awesome. You don't have to be training for this big, huge thing. We've heard all the stuff, right? Parking away from the store, so you walk a little further, taking the stairs. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff, but it's just the regularity of movement that makes such a difference. I heard somebody who was Lori Smith, nutrition coach, Lori Smith. She had a comment the other day that I thought was so perfect. She said, you know how you feel at the end of a long trip? Like, if you sit in the car for 9 hours and, you drive somewhere and you get out and you're just like, oh, you're just exhausted, right? And you think to yourself, how could I be so tired? Because, all I've been doing is sitting. She said, well, think about that. People basically do that every day. Like, if we get up in the morning, okay, we sit at the breakfast table, we get in our car, we sit in the car. If we're going to the office, okay, or staying at home, we go to our desk, we sit at the desk all day long. We get up, we get back in the car, we sit, we come home. I mean, and then we sit in front of the TV, right? So, I mean, you're basically doing that. It's like 9 hours of sitting.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
a
yeah,
great
you're
point.
gonna feel tired. You're gonna feel tired, but it's a lethargic kind of tired. It's not the kind of tired that you feel when you've actually like done something. So that idea of, how can I find more ways to move is just really, really critical.
Well, that's a
So,
good question to have in our heads too. How can I find more ways to move? The other point that I thought you made that was a really good point, that consistency, doing a little bit every day, is actually a rule that applies in so many. I used to coach writing, and people would they would say, I'm gonna write today, and then they would like write for 2 hours, and then the next day they couldn't do anything because
mhm,
they had already. So just that little bit every day, and I imagine it applies in so many ways, even like in business, do a little bit each
mhm,
day, not try to go all in, and then you're too either tired or overwhelmed. So those are
yeah.
really, really great points that you've made. Um, is there anything else that you would like to add for people as far as good advice? So you said consistency was one, and I thought you
Mhm.
had another thing that you were thinking of that you do with.
Oh, just that balance component, which I think is so important, just to And it's kind of what the injury process taught me in a really rough way. But this idea that we don't want to get too attached to any particular piece of our existence, and go too overboard. So I work with a lot of endurance athletes, and oh my gosh, they're the worst. I mean, they're really the worst, because they're type A's, and I'm a type A too, so I relate. But we are really the worst because we just get really like hyper focused, and you get excited. I mean, I get that the excitement's awesome.
Yeah.
And you want to go all in, but what we just have to kind of remember that we have different pieces to our lives, and all those different pieces are really important. So how am I going to be a great spouse? How am I going to be a great mom or dad? How am I going to be a great friend? How am I going to be a great athlete? And great is obviously a very, that's a definition you have to decide. How am I going to be a great employee or a great boss, or what, all the different hats that we wear, and those are all really important. So we can't really get too hyper focused on one of those, because that will take all the energy from the others that are just as important. So keeping that balance, I think, is
And as
really
a
important.
coach, it's like nice to, we always talk about the um, work with the end in mind, right? So that you are able to split things out little by little. So if I plan that, give myself enough space and time, because I know that I've done some athletic things that I didn't give myself space and time, and I've gotten injured as well. And what I loved about the why, when they started the why not tries, I thought that those were good because they built off of each other. Was that your idea? I can see
No, it was
I
not,
can see it being
but
your idea. Um,
but it was a great idea. Yeah.
it was. I love how we tried for just a really small one, and then we
Mhm.
worked our way up. I never did a full triathlon. I only did a half a one, but a half a one is still quite a lot. I mean, there
Yeah,
was like
absolutely.
2 miles of swimming, and I wasn't a very good swimmer. And what 20 miles of biking and 6 miles, I don't know, 12 miles of running. Anyway, it was still long, but I
Mhm.
loved that we started out small and then we built up. That then I didn't feel too that I was just like going pedal to the metal, and then I could have more balance.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that. It was just
Yeah.
such a brilliant move that they did on that. So yeah, I appreciate this interview. I just love your advice and all the things that you're doing out
Right.
there. How can people find you and reach you and see those amazing triathlon pictures? I'm just going to say.
From when I was very much younger. So let's see. Website is performancehigh.com. I have a Facebook site also for Performance High, so you can search that and find that. I have a group, also a Facebook group, which is Fitter, Stronger, Faster. And then obviously
Fitter,
my email.
stronger, faster. Fitter,
Mhm.
stronger, faster.
Fitter, Stronger, Faster. Yep. And then email is michelle@performancehigh.com.
Cool.
And yeah, there's lots of different ways to connect in. So Facebook and website will get you there, either one. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And at when this is posted up, we'll put the links in the comments so that people can find you. But what a
Perfect.
lovely, oh, she's such a yummy, fun person. So even if you find ways to stalk her on Facebook and find out the cool things she's doing, I would suggest going to the group because she has lots of good tips and tricks of things that can help you in your programs, no matter how big and small, right? Just
Exactly.
today,
Exactly.
what great advice. So be consistent and balanced. Take it in small bits. Don't go all in at once. Thank you so much, Michelle. And
Oh, thank you for this opportunity.
I,
Super fun, Marie. Loved
I
it.
really enjoyed it. All right. Have For the rest of you, the next time we meet, may you find the gold in you because you're awesome and amazing and beautiful. May you find the gold in others because you get to meet cool people like Michelle, and may you find the gold in every day. God bless.